Welcome back guys to another episode of Project Beer Ones. On today's episode we're going to be going through the cooling and the intercooler systems. Ellie had already purchased and half mounted the intercooler and radiator. All it needed was some mounts to be fabricated and made up so the whole lot would sit in there nice and neatly. I bent up some metal to create a base plate for the radiator and intercooler to sit on. I welded some locator dowels to the bottom of the radiator and drilled some holes in the base plate. After fitting the right size grommets into the base plate, the radiator sits in there, and with the rubber it cushions the radiator. So now we had the old problem of we've got an SR20 and we've got a standard Escort radiator. What radiator hoses are we going to use? I decided to change the water neck on the engine to try and help us to find a radiator hose that would suit. I cut the end of the neck, flipped it and re-welded it back on. We ended up finding two perfect hoses for our application after searching 3 different auto parts stores. We bought a perfect size thermo fan and mounted that up also. The intercooler had some brackets made up for the top and bottom. I also made some brackets up to hold the top of the radiator. These are welded to the end tanks of the intercooler. So because the intercooler is mounted in there solid, these also work to mount the radiator. These stop the need for any brackets that sit on the top end tank, so it keeps things nice and neat. Next up was the intercooler piping, which Ellie really wanted in stainless steel, but I wanted alloy. Ellie won in the end. He had a good friend of his help him make the pipes. One looked great and had a great curvy shape. I welded on a few bungs and pipes for sensors and vacuum, etc. and it was all done. The other cooler pipe was rather ugly. I redesigned it and added a few bends to make it look better. The reducer also had this really sharp bend in it, so I made my own. Much nicer now. The turbo flange end of that cooler pipe needed a few trenches to be slotted into the end of the pipe so the bolts could bolt in nice and neatly. It took quite a bit of work, but I got there in the end. That's it for this episode. On the next episode we're going to go through the air filter install and some of the motor details. Hope you enjoyed this episode guys. Please give a like, subscribe and leave a comment.